These playoffs have been the most unpredictable playoffs we've seen in this sport in over 50 years. I think it's safe to say that going forward, nobody can predict. I mean, you're seeing analysts that have been doing this sport, that have been talking about this sport for decades, say,
I don't even know who to pick. I have no idea. I feel like I'm wasting my time even talking about who I think is going to win, what's going to happen, because of the likeliness of unpredictability being the story of the 2019 NHL playoffs.
Now, did I think the Bruins were going to win the cup? To be completely honest, no. I thought Tampa would be the team that would win the cup this year. Between Tampa and Washington out of the East, and then I thought out of the West side, I honestly, because Calgary surprised me all year, I really did think Calgary was going to surprise me yet again in the playoffs. I really thought Calgary and Winnipeg would end up meeting later down the line, and it just didn't happen that way. It was a really weird playoffs. It's been so odd so far. So, long story short, this will be my video talking about who I think is going to come out of the East and who I think is going to come out of the West and meet in the Stanley Cup Final. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals begins tonight, and then we have Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, which begins on Saturday evening. Let's just start with tonight's game. Carolina Hurricanes against the Boston Bruins. These teams are, in my opinion, quite evenly matched. If you look at paper, it says Boston's probably a better team as far as players, top to bottom lines, defense and offense. I think it's safe to say on paper that Boston is the better team. But I mean, that was the same thing with the Tampa series. You start from the top to bottom of the roster, Tampa takes over Columbus all day. Yet they got swept, which still blows my mind. How did they get swept? How did they not even, there wasn't even a threat after their first 3 goals. Anyway, I don't really know, honestly. If I'm being completely honest, I have no idea who's going to go to the Cup. Of course, I'm cheering for the Bruins. That's my team. But my unbiased thoughts on who's going to go to the Cup final and who's going to win the Cup, I literally have no idea. So I'm just going to go ahead and guess yet again, because I've guessed, I think all my predictions have actually been wrong. So, I enjoy making these videos, but I really have no idea who to pick. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that I think Boston is going to win this series in 5. I picked Boston to win in 5 against Columbus, but if it wasn't for Bobrovsky in net for Columbus, I think that Boston really would have won in 5. The change in this series that I think is really extremely important to note is the fact that Carolina doesn't even have their starting goaltender in net. They swept the Islanders without their starting goaltender in net, which is nuts just to think about that. They got Curtis McElhinney in net. I think that's how you say it. McElhinney, whatever, however you say his name. He's an older goalie, and I personally just don't think he's that great. He played good against the Islanders, but the Islanders just really couldn't produce their offense like they did against Pittsburgh. I think that as watching Boston all season long, if you watch the way that they play, typically, this is just an overall average of their season, they start slow and they finish strong for the most part. In the games that they win, of course there's bad games. Start to finish, it's a flat, hard game to watch. But for the most part, historically speaking, when the games matter most, Boston plays a slow starting game and they play a really strong finishing game. Now, one thing I want to think about when I'm predicting this series is the fact that Boston had a really rough series against Toronto, in my opinion. They really didn't have a lot of offense that they had all season long affect that series. In the second series, that offense started to come out throughout the series. We saw that from the top to bottom of their lines. I think we're going to see the best Boston that we've seen. Again, I'm aware of the fact that I'm a fan, but this is my prediction. Carolina being this far, it surprises everybody, but I'm still going to stick with my team, and I think that Boston will win this series in 5 games because of the fact that they're going to produce a lot of offense and that McElhinney is not going to be the answer for Carolina to beat Boston. Here's the thing. If Carolina beats Boston, it's going to be because of their goaltending. Their goaltending is the answer here. Carolina plays a fast and physical game. They don't have any one person that's going to stand out, but they just play a really solid team game. They're going to have that going. I think they're going to have that going. Tuukka Rask has to play a solid series. But I do think that Carolina, in the end, their goaltender is going to be the answer, and I don't think he's going to get it done. If he does, they're going to win the series, but I don't think that he's good enough to get it done. Moving on to the next series, we have the San Jose Sharks against the St. Louis Blues. This is a series that it's going to go 7 games. I will be shocked if it doesn't go 7 games. Both goaltenders have been pretty solid. Martin Jones still, there's a question mark there for me. Binnington is very consistent. He has his moments where you question how the puck goes in, but he's still quite consistent. The thing that I think is going to happen here is this series, they're just going to beat each other up game after game after game. And in game 7, I think that this is going to be the year for the Sharks to make it to the Stanley Cup final. I really do think that. So I think the Sharks are going to win this series in 7. For me, it's not the same style of series as Boston and Carolina is. I think Boston has their series hands down. They're going to win this series hands down unless they get heroics from their goaltender, which I personally don't think is going to happen. The thing in the Sharks and St. Louis series, I think the Sharks are actually an overall better team for sure, but their goaltender is not as good. So then we got St. Louis with a comparable team, but their goaltender is better and more consistent. So that's why I think this series is going to go 7 games. But I think in the end, the purity of the lines in the Sharks lineup is going to be what gets it done. I think Martin Jones needs to play unbelievable hockey if they're going to get it done sooner than that. But my prediction for that second series is for the San Jose Sharks to win. And I think that we're going to see a Boston versus San Jose final. Those are my predictions for the last 2 series that remain before the Stanley Cup final. Let me know what you guys think below. If you think Carolina is going to beat Boston, or if you think St. Louis is going to beat the Sharks, and in which game. If you disagree, just let me know which game, and maybe even explain why. I'm totally open to seeing what other people are thinking, what the reasoning is behind this. Again, I'm just a guy who watches a lot of hockey. I don't have an insane amount of knowledge in the sport, but I've been watching the sport for a very long time. I'm very familiar with all the players, very familiar with the teams. So, I just think it's kind of fun to make a video and to create something in regards to the playoffs. So those are my predictions for the 2019 Western Finals and the Eastern Finals. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you in the next video. Go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel for more videos to come, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.